Good morning, League fans. We're back an hour later than our normal time slot, and it's a busy hour coming up. My name's Steve Maskell, by the way. You're on rugbyleague.com, where too much league is never enough. And before the hour is out, an NRL game will be kicking off at CommBank Stadium. It is Parramatta at home to Melbourne. And, the conditions in Sydney, it's 11 degrees and dry with high humidity. And for Parramatta, their in is a big one. It's Dylan Brown. Let's go through the Parramatta team. We're just going to squeeze all this stuff in, including the birthdays, news, all that sort of stuff, into the first segment of the show, and then I'll tell you what's coming after. So Parramatta from fullback is Joash Papali, Zach Lomax, Will Penasini, Sean Russell, Josh Addo-Carr, Dean Hawkins in the halves with Mitchell Moses captain, and the forwards are Jermaine Hopgood, Riley Smith, Junior Paulo, Charlie Guymer, Jack Williams, and Dylan Brown. The bench is Talon Da Silva, Luca Moretti, Matt Dory, and Sam Tuavati, and the 18th and 19th men are Jordan Samrani and Dylan Brown. So he is listed as an emergency reserve only. And then for the Melbourne Storm, there's a lot of players coming in and out. Coming in is Cameron Munster, Jonah Pezzett, Lazarus Vaelepu, and Ryan Pappenhausen. That's some big ins. But also out, Jerome Hughes, Suolagi Tuamalatu Brown, and Trent Liero. So the full side for the Melbourne Storm is Ryan Pappenhausen, Grant Anderson, Jack Howarth, Nick Meaney, Xavier Coates, Cameron Munster, Tyron Wishart at halfback, and the forwards are Stefan Oitukamanu, Harry Grant, captain and hooker, Josh King, Sean Blore, Eliezer Katoa, Tui Kamakamika, and the bench is Jonah Pezzett, Ati Lisati, Bronson Garlick, and Joe Chan, and the 18th and 19th men are Kane Bradley and Lazarus Vaelepu. Our referee is Gerard Sutton, and the senior review official is Chris Butler. Kick-off at 10 minutes to the hour. In the news in the Northern Hemisphere, it is all about the decision to take the Super League to 14 teams next year, with the 12th team determined by IMG points, but the 13th and 14th teams determined by an independent panel, and it'd be very interesting to see who wants to be on that panel. Let's go through the birthdays, and there's some big names, and some favourites of mine. Let's start with Bruce Foy. Had him on my footy cards as a kid. North Sydney and Eastern Suburbs, 74 today. Happy birthday, Bruce. One of my favourites as a kid watching the Steelers go around was the centre Kim Patrick. He's 69 today. Happy birthday to him. And I'm just going down the line. George Mann, New Zealand, Tonga, Auckland. He is 60 today. It's a big 6-0 for George Mann, as it is a landmark birthday for Ian Roberts. Happy 60th birthday to Ian Roberts. Sadly, David Myers, born in 1971, is no longer with us. He played in Australia for Western Suburbs, as well as having and Manly, and also in England for Widnes, Warrington, Wakefield, Bradford, Salford, and also plays for Sims Cross. Troy Campbell is a fellow who was always around when I was covering rugby league. He was born 3 years after me. He's 53 today. Played for Parramatta and Gold Coast. Happy birthday to him. Nathan Brown, the hooker, coach, player for St George and St George Illawarra. 52 today. Happy birthday to Brownie. John Doyle from North Queensland. He and the Roosters. 48 today, Johnny Doyle. Adam Mogg, another great Queensland Origin star, 48 today. Paul Fatuira, great fella, premiership winner, 44 today. Played for Melbourne, Penrith, West Tigers. Come over here and played for Huddersfield and also Parramatta. Who else have we got here? Alex Glenn, New Zealand and Cook Islands internationals, just 37 today. They're getting younger on our list. Curtis Sirinen at St Helens, he's 32 today. And I think we might finish up with Will Penasini, the great Parramatta and Tonga player. Happy 23rd birthday to Will Penasini. Now, during the next sort of 45 minutes, you'll be hearing from two Super League coaches, Paul Rowley and Paul Wellens, and they'll be talking about various issues connected to their matches this weekend and others happening in the sport as a whole, which I've already touched upon. And don't forget that Salford are at home tonight, UK time, when they take on Hull KR. So Paul Wellens, the coach of St Helens, and Paul Rowley, the coach of Salford. You'll hear from them immediately after this. And then we're going to go back to the 19th of the month because I really want to re-air an interview that we had with Sam Tomkins, who about the situation that Catalans are in. And of course, since this interview was aired or went to air live before kickoff in the match between Catalans and Hull KR, Sam's brother Joel was confirmed as the head coach of Catalans going forward. So we're going to finish up with that interview. So that's it. There's a lot to squeeze into the hour. If I have time, we'll also come back with some score updates in the final 10 minutes, if there is, in fact, any scores in the first 10 minutes of that match at Combank Stadium. Okay, back after this, are you going to hear from Paul Rowley? Forward, Harvey Wilson has been a leading light for Salford in a really troubled year in 2025, and the news has broken that he will be leaving. He's heading off to Catalans Dragons on a 2-season contract. Catalans trying to sign younger players with something to prove now rather than some older established stars. It hasn't really worked out for them this year. The Salford coach, Paul Rowley, was asked his opinion about the breaking news that he had lost Harvey Wilson across the channel.
Well, I can't tell you why. You'd have to ask him. So, in terms of Harvey, he's been another young lad. Like the many we've had come through our doors and given opportunity to, and he's been very good. And we wish him nothing but the best of luck going forward. So, nothing really more to say about that one. Nothing other than positives to say about Harvey. He's a good lad, and like I said, we wish him all the best.
Welcome back to rugbyleague.com, where too much league is never enough. My name is Steve Mascott. Hope you're enjoying our programming, our music, and our rugby league chat wherever you are in the world. Now, Salford are opening the Super League round on Thursday night. They take on Hull KR, and they're right up against it with all the problems that they've had this year. Salford, a lot of financial difficulties and ownership uncertainty. And their halfback, Ollie Russell, he's a decent player. He's been playing for both Salford and Wakefield this year. And the coach of Salford, Paul Rowley, has clarified the position of Ollie Russell going forward for the rest of the season. Let's have a listen to what Paul Rowley had to say about Ollie Russell in his midweek media conference.
Ollie Russell is probably the major one. Obviously got called back to Wakefield, so that's the big loss, if you like. I'm not disappointed at Wakefield. Wakefield have been extremely good with us, giving him to us in the first place. Ollie was fantastic as well. But with any player, certainly one of Oliver's calibre, then to lose him's certainly a blow to us. But we're grateful for the relationship that we've had with Wakefield, the trust that they've put in us to look after him, and hopefully we can, if he doesn't get his nose in at Wakefield, we can look to resume that at a later date.
You're on rugbyleague.com, where too much league is never enough. A big weekend coming up of Super League and NRL coverage here on the station. And from a Northern Hemisphere point of view, it kicks off on Thursday night with Salford at home to St Helens. And of course, anyone doing a media conference this week in Rugby League in England, they were going to get asked about the decision on Monday from the clubs to expand Super League to 14 teams in 2026. Now, Salford did get a vote on this, even though they are regarded by a lot of people as being at long odds to be in Super League next year because of their financial problems and the threatened 8-point penalty for fielding a deliberately understrength team in round one. But as I said, they still got a vote on it, and their coach, Paul Rowley was no different when it was his turn to have a media conference. He was asked about what he thought about those overarching and sweeping changes that were determined on Monday for the competition.
If we're in Super League, then I'm all for playing more varieties and different teams in different places. So, but I guess with any business decision, the devil's in the detail, so to speak. So, without being sat in the meeting and knowing the facts, the figures, and the detailed information that they've based the decisions upon, then I'll abstain from having too strong an opinion on it. Other than that as a fan, then it's obviously more interesting to have more teams.
Welcome back. England superstar Jack Wellsby hurt his knee at the end of May, and there were some initial concerns he'd be in doubt for the Ashes series, which would have been a terrible blow to England and their coach, Sean Wayne. But Wellsby's club coach, Paul Wellens at St Helens, he has revealed that the fullback is way ahead of schedule and that 16-week convalescence that was forecast, turns out it may have been a little bit pessimistic, and it came up when Wellens was asked during his weekly media conference who else was due back from injury in the coming weeks.
Potentially Dion Cross in a week or so. Similarly, with Jack Wellsby's making some great improvements, and he's ahead of schedule. Obviously, there's a few things that he needs to tick off there, but in the coming weeks, Jack will be in contention as well. So obviously, that's a huge boost also. Yeah, it's still too soon. You say there's no way we're going to take risks with Jack, but as you can imagine, he's really keen to get back out there. So we're having to pull on those reins a little bit to make sure that we don't obviously push him too far. But we're optimistic. Yeah, he's very much ahead of schedule. So the original prognosis was a worst case scenario, 16 weeks, which after seeing the specialist, 3 or 4 weeks into his rehabilitation, that got straight back to 10. So obviously that was very encouraging straight from the off. So we've got that 10-week figure in mind. However, if Jack makes the progress that he continues to make, then that could potentially be a little bit sooner. But obviously, given his importance to us, we know we won't be making any rash decisions there.
Super League resumes second half of a split round on Thursday night. It's Salford at home to Hull KR. Then on Friday, the Lee Leopards play host to Warrington, and frustratingly for a lot of people because there's only 3 games this round, the other match is on at exactly the same time, 8 o'clock on Friday night. St Helens at home to Cass. Coach of St Helens is Paul Wellens, and he was asked during his midweek media conference whether the expansion of the import quota to 10 players, whether St Helens would actually fill 10 import spots next year. His answer was pretty interesting.
I don't think so at this moment in point. As you say, that there's a lot of good spots available for us next year. But what we're always about, regardless of what the quota is next year or has been previously, is we're about improving the team and improving the squad. And first and foremost, we'll always look internally to do that. And by internally, I mean look at our academy and see what we've got coming through. Then obviously you can look in around Super League and then further afield with overseas players. But I don't envisage us using 10 overseas quota spots.
You're on rugbyleague.com, where too much league is never enough. My name's Steve Mascott. Hope you're enjoying your day or morning or evening or midnight to dawn, wherever you are in the world. Now in Super League coming up on Friday, St Helens are at home to Castleford. That's a game where we will be bringing you score updates here on rugbyleague.com. And Paul Wellens had his traditional midweek media conference not so long ago, and he actually started by paying tribute to the great Ray French, the broadcaster, the dual international who he lost last week, aged 85, and who, as Paul said, was an icon in Merseyside.
Yeah, extremely sad, and obviously, Ray's someone that obviously within rugby league circles, you go up and you know who he is. A very distinctive voice, and you know him well through his commentary. But before, I was fortunate, to be in his company and mix with him personally as well. During my time in the game, and he's a wonderful man who was great to spend time around, and he'll be probably rightly remembered mostly for the work in the commentary box, but I know in and around here at St Helens he was obviously a teacher at Cowley High, taught English and Latin, was coached the rugby team as well and developed a lot of wonderful players in that respect. Done so much with his life, and yeah, it's obviously a sad loss, but myself personally and on behalf of everyone with the club, send out our condolences and best wishes to his family. Yeah, absolutely. He's kind of not synonymous with the town really, Ray. Obviously, the most recognised for his commentary work, but like I've just mentioned, a number of other things that he did as well. And there's probably a lot more that, well, I'm almost certain there's a lot more that I've missed. He was heavily involved down at Liverpool St Helens Rugby Union Club as well, and the president there for a good number of years. And the type of person who's always willing to to help and be there for other people. I think that speaks volumes.
Welcome back to rugbyleague.com, where too much league is never enough. My name's Steve Mascord, and if you are listening in the Northern Hemisphere or you follow the Northern Hemisphere game, you would be well aware that some dramatic changes to Super League were announced this past Monday. The competition moving from 12 to 14 teams next year, and also a proposal that the finals or playoffs would be extended to 8 teams. Of course, everyone's being asked their opinion on this, especially since a different method will be used to determine Team 12 as Teams 13 and 14, 2 completely different ways of selecting those sides. One of the many leading figures in the sport who fronted a media conference since that decision was made at Headingley at the start of the week was St Helens coach Paul Wellens, and he was asked what he made of it all.
I'm really unsure at this moment in time, Phil. And what I would say is, what I would love is, what we need is the competition to strengthen, the competition to grow. Now, if that's by going to 14 teams, if we're going to strengthen the competition by doing that, then it can be good. But what I will say is that we have to be careful we don't dilute it as well. So I'm not really got an opinion one way or the other at this moment in time. I think really only time will tell. Well, you'd like to probably see a little bit more in-depth information around where the players are going to come from, etc. And obviously the quarter spot to the quarter overseas quarter has been extended, so that's obviously one way of doing it. But you do probably question whether we have the strength and depth of player in the amount within the game over here. And that's me not saying we don't. I'm just unsure at this moment in time.
Welcome back, enormous pleasure to welcome to the box Sam Tomkins. Sam, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks for having me.
Now we were just talking about that Wigan result across the pond. What did you make of that?
Yeah, didn't see that coming. Very, very un-Wigan-like performance from Wigan. I watched the first half at home before he had to leave for the stadium, and some of the really uncharacteristic errors from Wigan, which you wouldn't expect. They're in a little bit of a dip at the moment, but it doesn't last too long for good teams, those little dips, and I imagine they'll sort of come into some form. But certainly one that I didn't expect.
Do you just get tired when you're sort of a front-running team and it's a long season?
No, I think it can be a multitude of different things. I think if you look at Wigan in the last 2 years, they've had a little dip mid-season and then gone on to be unbeaten or very nearly unbeaten. So it could be anything. I think picking up a few injuries doesn't help. Obviously, the main one is Bevan French. He's one of the very top. He'd be in the top few players in the league. You take him out of a team, and I think the fact that he has such an impact when he doesn't play is testament to how good of a player he is. Wigan they've always got star players, and he's certainly right at the top of I think anyone that they've signed for a long time. So him not being in certainly changes the dynamic of the team a little bit. But Matty Pete knows that he'll have to find a way of winning without him. You know, Jay Field's gone off with an HIA today. Eckersley's gone. You know, so they're going to do it a little bit tough, but you know, they've got a very good squad, and I'm sure nobody will want to play them now. You know, they're in a little bit of a lull. This is when you don't want to play Wigan, because at some point they'll blow someone off the park.
Talking of Wigan, when you go back to Wigan and maybe people ask you why Catalans this year aren't higher up the table, I mean, what do you tell them? Have you got a theory? Is it one answer? Is it a lot of things?
It's a multitude of things, I think. You know, I don't think, you know, we didn't see this season coming like this. You know, we trained in pre-season. I think personally we probably didn't quite get pre-season right. And then having a little bit of inconsistency in squad, you know, not having the same people in the in the same positions doesn't help. But I think standards slipped a little bit here, and we needed a big change. The club decided that was to change the coach. I certainly don't think Steve was the sole problem. I think a lot of players aren't playing good rugby, as simple as that. For whatever reasons, we might have all different ones, but we've been well below par, something that we certainly should be and are disappointed with.
Why does standards slip? Is it just people get into habits and get complacent? And does the atmosphere, it's an old cliche you've heard many times, but does the atmosphere here and the relaxed, is that something you've got to fight against all the time? And also there's an isolation factor, you're away from sort of the mainstream, you know?
No, I think the old theory of, you know, it's a relaxed place. Look, when we're training and we're playing, there's nothing French about us. There's nothing south of France swanning around with a glass of wine. That isn't how we are. I think, you know, a lot of players would admittedly be saying they're not playing good rugby, and they could all be for different reasons. Yeah, there could be some homesick, there could be some not in form, some playing injured, whatever it may be. But I think once you get a few players not quite meeting the standards, it's easy for others to, you know, you're just an average of what everybody's doing. So I think it's probably slipped a little bit, and that's what we're trying to focus on now. You know, we look at the season and it's gone, you know, pretty horrifically so far. Now we've got to look at getting better every week, and we've churned out some good performances and lost, but we need to find a consistency in performance. You know, we thought we were building. Then we go to Wakefield and they put 40 odd points on us. You know, that was another dip. Then you have to build yourself back up, and that's how it's felt this year. We've just had no consistency.
I'm kind of tossing up whether to go more about you at the next question or more broad brush. We'll go broad brush. What about the kind of attitude of the rest of the comp towards the club? Have you noticed any difference? Obviously the squeeze is always put on financially. The more other clubs struggle, the more they seem to want to take out of this club. What's your view of that from here?
Yeah, well, there's clearly some clubs in Super League that don't want Catalan in, and we're fully aware of that. But we don't care, if I'm honest. You know, I love that. You know, I'm not known for being liked anyway. So the fact that the club I play for isn't liked is no skin off my nose. The players know that, the club know that, and we're getting financially squeezed, and Bernard's having to, you know, pay for things no one else does, and it's almost like, you know, one thing, you know, something goes well, we get to a couple of grand finals, and then all of a sudden you've got to start paying for travel, you've got to do this and that, and yeah, it's but we are an outpost of Super League, and there's always been plans that we have to do things a little bit different to everyone else, which we do, you know, travelling every other week, and we face some challenges that other clubs don't. But we know the position we're in. When you sign for this club, you know exactly what you're signing up to, so there's no illusion.
Did you get excited when people started talking NRL Europe and the NRL taking interest in this club?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you look at the NRL and what an organisation it is, and the gap between them and us in terms of a league is huge. So I think, you know, the talk of them being able to come in and sort of steer us in the right direction. Yeah, I think I was excited by the prospect of it. I think you'd be crazy to not be excited when an organisation as powerful and successful as the NRL want to buy in. So yeah, hopefully one day it happens. But yeah, I think we've got to keep moving in the right direction, whether they get involved or not.
And before I move on to you, the new movements or machinations of the RFL, the strategic review, the talk of 14 teams. Obviously the game's at a bit of a crossroads, but there's been a lot of crossroads lately. But what do you make of all that?
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of meetings with no outcomes at the moment. I think everybody's waiting for some clear leadership, some clear guidance on what we're going to do. Everyone buy into it, whatever it is. Let's move it on. I think what everyone's got in common, whether it be players, staff, supporters, journalists, broadcasters, we want the game to move on. We want the game to move in the right direction. So whatever that is, let's do it. Let's all get on board. But yeah, at the moment, I think everybody's just guessing. You get told there's a meeting, but nothing's happened. So hopefully soon we'll get some clear direction on where it's going, whether it be 12 teams, 14 teams, whatever that may be.
Is the club here scared of losing their central funding? I'll ask you that one.
You'd have to ask the people in the office. I'm just a player. I know my funding's ending soon, so I don't know what the club think about their options.
Which brings us to last week. You pulled out in the warm-up. So what's your injury situation? Are you going to be back on the field this year?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've got a long list of injuries, but it was my knee. I struggled training a little bit last week, but I trained on the Thursday, so it wasn't too bad. But I thought I'll give it 48 hours. Hopefully, it goes.
There's an ambulance in the background coming to your injury. Yeah.
As soon as I start talking about my knees, sirens go off all around Perpignan. I was hoping it'd improve after training. It didn't. It went the other way. So I went out for warm up and thought I'd be doing. It's not right to play. I play broken pretty much every week, but last week I was to the point where I knew I wouldn't be able to perform anywhere near where I wanted to, so it was better for the team to put someone else in.
Now I remember going to the movie premiere for the Last Chance. How do you look back on the comeback? Are you pleased with it? Are you happy with it? How would you sum it up?
Yeah, this year's clearly not gone well, so it's not how I envisaged coming back. I wanted to come back and I finished. I bowed out at Old Trafford. I wanted to do that again, but no, I certainly have no regrets of coming out of retirement. Look, all I've wanted to do from being 5 years old is play rugby, so being given the opportunity to play for a club that I love for another year, I couldn't turn it down, to be honest. So yeah, I'm happy that I did it, but when I retire this time, I mean it. I've had every minute out of these knees, and there certainly won't be anything else. So yeah, I'll be finishing up.
Last question: if we're looking for you this time next year, where will we find you?
You'll probably on a Saturday afternoon. You'll find me here at Brutus watching the Dragons.
With an official capacity at the club, yeah?
No. Just as a supporter. I'll still be living here. I live 5 minutes from the stadium, but my family's well and truly settled here. So next year I'll be working with Sky Sports. I've got a contract there next year, so I'll be back in two. But any Saturday afternoon and the Dragons are playing, I'll be right here. Not in the press box, a bit further down with a beer, I reckon.
Yeah. I wish I had a beer in my hand today. Thanks for coming up and joining us, Sam, and thanks for your help over the years. I think I got to say that a couple of years ago. I get to say it again.
Thanks a lot, appreciate it.